Southern River Band, Let It Ride, bringing us in once again. The Four Wheel Drive podcast on Instagram. All our episodes over at BackChat, the socials. Obviously, like I said, the Four Wheel Drive podcast. Touring on a budget, Ronnie. That's what we're covering today.
Touring on a budget. Those two words I find hard to put together, and that's why I think this is going to be a great episode, because we got some ideas.
We've got some ideas, but I don't know if I'm not sure about where we're at with our current four-wheel drives and our setups. We're quite on the budget stage anymore.
No, we're over budget.
Yeah, we are over budget. So people can choose to actually listen to us or not here. But we're going to talk through a little bit about how we maybe started out. And I think your situation of where you've come from in the four-wheel driving game, and we've heard about that before in earlier episodes, but I think that'll be a really great insight into, I suppose, not comparing. It's dangerous for people now to see what's out there on YouTube and all that sort of stuff. If you start comparing to what you're seeing on YouTube, a lot of those people now have blown the budget.
Yes.
And that's the game they're in. They're doing that for a reason. It's their passion, obviously. But
that's right. And I guess another thing to say as well, like everything you see on video and social media, people always put up the best picture, the best time, the biggest smiles, and sometimes some frills and spills, but it paints this picture that the grass is greener on the other side, when really camping is camping. You know, you can camp with a caravan, you can camp with a swag around a fire. I know what I would rather do, swag around a fire.
Yep. It's pretty bare bones stuff really when you think about it, but the money figure in between is what just sets the different, same experience, but it sets, I suppose, the comfort apart really. So, it's a bit like gambling, is it? Everyone tells you about their wins, but they won't tell you about their losses.
That's exactly right.
That's how probably us can make it look like to people. But you've shown on your stuff, I think, the highs and lows of it all, but some don't.
Yeah. So, I mean, we all started from when I first started camping, it was just out of a Falcon, you know?
Yep.
Make ends meet, just esky, $30 Kmart tent.
Yep.
You know, that's what me and the missus did back in the day, and out of the boot of a Falcon, you know.
Yeah.
And we had a great old time, fishing for 24 hours and not catching any fish, and you know, I've got plenty of those stories and plenty of great memories with not having a troopy with a roof conversion or or a massive budget to travel to the other side of the country, you know. Yep. So camping is camping. As long as you're having fun and you're getting out there, that's what it's all about. And I think that's what people need to hear.
Yep. There's an age-old saying, comparison is the thief of joy. So that's what I want to reiterate. You don't have to compare to what you see out there and Google images and get ideas from that. You've got to base it off what you need. Really, it's
for sure.
That's as simple as it gets. So I think we've been getting a few people writing in and just wondering how to actually, one, get into it if you are doing it, but you're trying to save money. You don't have a lot of money. When that sort of comes to your mind, what are the things that you think of?
I think people restrict themselves. They think they need, like we just spoke about, they think they need all this stuff because they see the grass is greener on the other side. However, at the end of the day, all you really need is the money for fuel and the time off work.
Yep. Yeah.
That's probably the biggest cost really that is necessary. Yes, you can go out and you can buy, like a rooftop tent or something. But if you have a swag is fine.
Yep.
You know, you don't have to be off the ground. I mean, sure, if you can afford it and you're in that position, that's a different story. But for those on a budget, you don't need to have all this extra gear.
Yep.
It's the same with like gas cookers. You can get like some really good gas cookers. I've got a gas cooker in a Troopy that's $460. And to most people, that is an insane amount of money to spend on a gas cooker, and they are completely right. However, I use it every single day on a big trip. It then comes into its own. It's going to last for quite a while.
Yep.
Whereas a lunchbox cooker can do the same job, but it has its limitations.
Yep.
It uses more gas. You need to carry more gas bottles in. It's only a $20 cooker, so you saved all that money. So it's not really an issue unless you're traveling around the country. So if you're just going out for a weekender, lunchbox cooker. I mean, yes, they blow out, but just set up a nice little wall. There's a little bit of extra stuff you got to do, but you can get away with it.
Yeah, especially if you're not using it all the time as well. There's no point going to pay $460 for something that you're going to use 3 times a year potentially.
Exactly, and that's that you hit the mark right on the head there.
Yeah,
that's that's probably where people need to look at is how often they're actually camping.
Yep.
I actually did a video recently and upset a few mathematicians.
We like this.
Because I said there was also a hook at the start and also to get the message across. So the hook at the start was it costs on average every single person $200 per night to go camping. And I factored
That's a decent room, hotel room.
It is, yeah. And I factored those figures on the fact that most people only camp 10 days a year. That was on a survey, 10 or less.
Yep.
And most people will spend no more than 20 grand on upgrading their vehicles or their travel. So that's split into 10. That's your budget for that year. Of course, if you still have the car next year, you got maintenance and all that kind of stuff as well to factor in. But it was just a hook to bring it in. It's a good way to sort of get people to check themselves, you know, because I did a comparison to my 79 series and that if I only used that 10 times a year, it would cost me, what was it, like $2,000 a night.
Yeah. Yeah, right. A night?
Yeah.
Jeez.
If I only used it 10 times a year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, right. How many nights would you... Have you calculated that?
Well, yeah. It's hard for me to calculate because people always try to count how many times I rock up to camp in the dark and it's... I don't have enough digits in my hands and once I get beyond 20, I can't remember.
I reckon it'd be a few. I want to go back to sort of just start with while we're kicking this off, places to go when you're four-wheel driving on a budget. Now, the first thing that comes to mind for me is you don't pay for a campsite.
Wiki camps,
get on there.
Hip
Camp, which is you're paying a little bit on Hip Camp. Usually, is there some free ones on Hip Camp too?
Yeah, I think you get it for free to start with, or you used to.
Oh, okay.
I don't really use Hip Camps, but
yeah, I'm yet to use it as well. But I've got the app, and there's some ripping campsites on there.
Well, there's heaps of like hidden campsites, and it's great if you're trying to get to a destination and you want somewhere to stay in between, and you don't want to. Maybe you're running late and you can't get to the caravan park anyway. You pull into these camps, and they're generally pretty good. Like you definitely read the reviews though, because there's some that have like some terrible reviews. You're like, I'm not going to that gravel pit.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the same as Wiki Camps. They've got great information on there, and it's usually quite up to date, especially if you're on the main road going somewhere and you want to pull off 10 or 15 minutes off the side. That gives you a good indication. It's
actually a game changer for to reduce stress when you're trying to find somewhere, especially at night. But look, Wiki Camps is a great way to go camping without paying. There is also stealth camping.
Stealth camping. So
take for instance.
That's not an app. That's just the mode of camping you're in.
Yeah, that's a mode of camping. So people who have made a bed in the back of the vehicle. So for example, say a wagon, have to pull the back seats out of there, fold the back seats forward. You could sleep in that car and no one will be none the wiser. You could park your car in a certain way and put the swag on the other side and no one's none the wiser.
Stealth camping.
So stealth camping, it's a way of camping.
It would be a little bit hard for you to stealth camp though with your
with the four-wheeling
or just plastered across the side of your cars.
Yeah, just waiting for a mate. But everyone has the right to rest, because it
That's
comes
true.
to, that it's signed everywhere. Don't drive tired. There's many excuses.
That's a good point. Yeah,
you can pull
stealth camping. We should make that an app. We just jot that one down.
Stealth camping.
Another thing on the same line, good places to actually get your wheels dirty if you're on a budget. And when we're thinking about budget, we don't want to be spending thousands of dollars on fuel just to go and get the tyres sandy.
No.
When we're thinking about Perth, there's plenty of options.
I think we're spoiled here in Perth, to be honest. We're a large city. We got pretty much almost everything, except for we send everything over east and we get it back again. But for location-wise, we're pretty spoiled. Look, I think to go camping on a budget, find somewhere local and hang out there. And then there's plenty of places to try out local, and then from there you sort of just expand, or you camp less, you travel less, and then you put like less times, but you add that to like a bigger trip, and then you budget for that trip. You save up. That I think that's probably the best way, is to save up for a trip, save up for the fuel, save up for the national park fees, those kind of things, and save up for some luxuries, wherever it's comfort foods, or you do want to have that cooker that's a little bit better or something. that's another way to budget for a trip. But really, when it comes down to actually traveling and touring, the only real thing you need to worry about are tires and fuel.
Yep.
And time off work.
Yep. Yeah, time off work's a big one because although you're spending all the money to go forward driving, you're not making any money because you're off work. But I think the important thing to remember as well is if you're on a budget and you are a little bit tight for money and you can't be modifying your car when things go wrong, don't drive outside your limits and bust your car up, because not every part's a lot of parts are expensive to replace. Or
they are, and then you got recoveries and you got to get the car towed back and all that. So if you're already on a strict budget, you likely don't have full comprehensive insurance and all that stuff either. So you definitely got to be more careful. Drive to your limits. But I think if we talk about just camping in general, what about instead of going to the camping shop to buy specific camping plates, specific cutlery, and all those things, you can just take your home cutlery. You can make a backpack and seriously just make that into a picnic bloody bag and take that with you. Yep. There's all your cutlery sorted,
Yeah.
Or paper plates,
There's many ways around
fire.
it. Yeah. These are the Four Wheel Drive podcast driven by Shelter. All right, mate. Thinking about how often you go forward driving and how much you spend on each trip, can you give us some insight into the balance between...
My pocket's hurting.
Because it's empty?
It's interesting. That's a really good question, because I'm realising something here as well. So when I go on a short trip, I will fill the fridge, and look, I'm buying food for the camera crew as well. So it's like buying food for occupants in your vehicle that you're taking with you. If I'm going just for a couple of nights, I will spend almost as much money on food as I would if I was going for 5 nights or 6 nights. Because when you're going for a longer distance, you have to really finesse the stuff you put into your fridge. You really got to play clever Tetris and make sure that what you bought for these meals can actually fit in there. And you'll find that the food budget gets... the produce you buy, you can only fit so much meat and stuff in your fridge. So you need to substitute some stuff with canned food and things and long life food, so you can continue on, because once you are doing like a remote trip, there's no supermarket out there.
Yep.
So in that sense, and well, not just in that sense, but 2 days you'll fill the fridge up. You'll make sure, we need some extra snacks and all that. It's very easy for me to get carried away, and I think for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because you're just going to chuck everything in the fridge and off you go. You usually come back with so much food. Whereas on a longer trip, you come back with a lot less food. You tend to get to the point where you're starting to trade chocolate for, certain other commodities.
What's the Tim Tams in your car?
Usually the dark chocolate. I'll usually bring dark chocolate because less people like dark chocolate.
Oh, right.
But there's always a milk chocolate somewhere, so I can trade.
Chocolate. Some decent health benefits with dark chocolate apparently as well. So
is there?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
there
good.
You go. Looking after yourself, mate. So the I suppose food, fuel, that's like your big ticket items. So if you are on a budget, fuel, think about where you're going if you don't want to spend a lot on that.
$3.30 a litre.
Yeah. But those two, you just can't not pay the money for those.
Yeah, you can't not do that unless you got the DeLorean that runs on rubbish.
What?
The DeLorean, the Back to the Future.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I was like, there's a new rig coming out, the DeLorean.
He runs the car on rubbish. I mean,
runs on green waste.
Oh my God. Yeah, imagine if they did that. There'll be no rubbish in the bush. I'm running out of fuel. Quick, clean up this camp.
Yeah, we've got to get these ideas down on paper here.
Yeah.
There you go.
The flux capacitor.
I might go back and watch that tonight. Actually, great film. So the fuel, the food. What else are your other things that you can't? You have to have. You can't lose out on.
Yeah, I guess. What else do you really need? I think that's probably it. I mean, if you're using paper plates and stuff, well, that comes in with the food. You need to replenish that. Your gas, you need to fill your tanks up with the gas, if you are cooking with gas, that is. And that's the other thing. If you have a gas bottle that's half full, generally speaking, you just fill it up because you're paranoid it's going to run out. But it's a good thing to measure how much gas you're actually using. So you don't go and spend that, because every time you fill up a gas bottle, regardless if it's 3/4 full or 3/4 empty, you're going to pay the same amount of money. And I think that's probably about it, really. It's food, water, drinks, and fuel.
Yep.
That's basically all you really got to have your budget for. And then I guess if the trip is a big one, you probably need to, you will need to look at servicing the vehicle before you go, because it's a place we can early identify if it's going to be a problem. And some things, the mechanic might go, nah, she'll be right.
Yep.
But then if it's like a she'll be right kind of thing, you go and buy that spare belt or something,
Yep.
And then you just replace it, or you just bring it with you. And then at least you got the peace of mind. Peace of mind is worth spending a little bit of money on. And just,
absolutely.
Just like the basic things. Like if you're going a fair distance, there are a lot of spare parts that you can get that are cheap, like wheel studs, fuel filter, air filter. Those kind of things are quite important.
Yep.
I guess if you're in a dusty environment and you have a snorkel, those snorkel socks you have on, they're kind of like you can wash them, but I suppose there's a budget tip. You can wash and re-oil it, or you can, replenish those as well.
Yep. So that's a good segue really into preferring your personal preference, small trips, like lots of small trips, or a few big trips a year. You are in a different space. Say when you were on a budget back in the early days.
The big trips always.
Big trips were your preference, yep.
That's a really good question. You just triggered something there too. So small trips are great. Big trips are awesome, but you can only do so many big trips a year.
Yep.
Because time off work is the main factor, and then it's also the budget. But those middle range trips, if you can finesse your time to do 3 or 4 middle range trips, and that's like 4 days away and come back, that's a really good length of a trip. It's a really good way of budgeting your time and money for a trip, because you're not going that far with the fuel. You're not needing to have that much food. You're not needing to have extended tanks and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And most people you travel with, perhaps the missus or or the partner or whatever, doesn't like sleeping in swags, is less duration of time they got to put up with that.
Yep.
So it's a much. I reckon that's a spot. It's like a medium trip rather than a really long one. I mean, long ones are epic. Let's not discount those. But on a budget side of things, you can make memories for 4 or 3 times a year.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I think, speaking for small trips, which is probably where I've sat more because just of my schedule, but yeah, the same thing. You make so many great memories even for a night or two away. In a swag, which is awesome. But I think the big trips, I feel like would be on a lot of people's bucket list to head away for a good 2 or 3 weeks and just
for sure.
And then figuring out the art of actually, like you say, packing the fridge or the different spare parts that you might need out there.
But it's a lot more expensive.
A lot more expensive, yeah. So I hope we're keeping this around the budget idea, because we could easily slip into no budget and just go on large. But I think keeping that on a budget, the small trips are really great, because at the end of the day, you don't need stuff all to go away with.
Yeah, that's it.
One dinner, one brekkie, you're almost right, really.
Yeah, pretty much. Just a lot of eggs, a shit ton of eggs.
Yeah, shit ton of eggs, shit ton of shelters.
Yeah, read my mind.
So we've spoken about the food and stuff, but I suppose the more stuff that you have, when I think about gas bottles and cookers and anything that you're putting in the car, you need somewhere to store that. So the fact around where I'm going with this is fridges are quite expensive, eskies aren't.
Yes.
The fridge in your car, you need to sort of strap that down or have somewhere to place it where it's not going to bounce around so the engine doesn't stuff up and your food goes flying. An esky, throw it in, it's full of ice, the food ain't moving anyway. The beers aren't going anywhere, they're just stuck in the ice. So there's those ways around that.
There's a few little budget tips as well with an esky. So if you have an ice cream container at home, freeze that into blocks.
Yep.
And then just build up your ice before you go. So you're going to have to, eat your hash browns and eat your bloody chicken, whatever they're called, to make room for all this ice, because that will last much longer than the service station ice.
Yep.
And you will be surprised. You can almost double the duration you can go. But then there's Powerade bottles, freeze those. You can drink them afterwards too.
Yep. Yeah. So I think that's a good leeway because $1,000 fridge versus you can get a decent quality esky for $100. There's buying a $400, $500 swag, or there's buying the $30 Kmart tent that if you're going away for a night in the summer is going to be fine.
Yeah.
So give us some tips and tricks on the, I suppose the sub in, sub out rule. So you're subbing an esky in for a fridge, you're subbing a tent in for a rooftop tent or a swag. Yep. What are some other subs that you can make that you don't need to go all out on?
All right. Instead of buying a camping table, use the back of your tray, back of your ute, back of your tailgate, back of your tailgate on like a four-wheel drive wagon, if you have that, unless there's barn doors.
Barn doors, yeah.
Make your own little table out of plywood. That folds down when you open the door up. They're fairly common, especially homemade as well. DIY your drawers, because drawers are very expensive, and I find that if you DIY, they're generally a lot lighter as well.
Yep.
Because they're not built as tough, but they're lighter because, you're not spending money on all the runners and all the aluminium and that. You are just getting some cheap plywood, and if it doesn't last more than 2 years, who cares? You had a budget. That's what to expect from a budget anyway. That's another way. Can't afford a swag. You got a wagon, fold the seat down, sleep in the back. Stealth camping.
Which we love. I think if you don't need roof bars instead of the Rhino rack, base rack, or whatever. I don't know what their names are now, but the big platform racks and stuff that you get, like, you don't need these.
Just a couple of bars across.
Just a couple of bars.
Yeah.
Throw your stuff on there if you've got no room, and if you're in the Falcon and you need something on the roof. Or what was that thing that we've seen in one of the last episodes? The little Corolla. Yeah. Throw some bars on top and you're away. I'm trying to think of some others because I gave you that question. I've got absolutely nothing.
Just to jump in, boys. Just if you're on a budget, drawers might not be even something that you're thinking about, but you can go into Kmart and Target or whatever and grab the plastic boxes, the
just
plastic
tubs,
containers, just tubs.
Yeah.
Just throw all your clothes in one box, throw your food in the other, and that sets you up. And that's actually fairly space saving as well. You can really stack those on top of each other and just throw them in.
That's a good call.
So if you're on a budget, that might be something that you should think about.
Yeah,
for sure. Absolutely. And then get an extra one with a smelly tree in it, so for your your dirty clothes.
Yeah, that's a good tip.
That's actually it's a great idea. I'm going to throw that in my car.
Cleaning yourself at camp, instead of buying a 12-volt shower or anything like that, just use a cloth and a bucket. You can heat some water, throw in the bucket. Wet ones are kind of, you got to buy more,
Yeah, true.
And wet ones leave a residue on you. I used to clean myself with those.
They do, don't they?
Yeah.
That's what I still clean myself with, but anyway.
Sometimes I do to start with, and then I'll rinse it off.
Yeah.
Or if you're near the ocean, rinse yourself off in the ocean first, then go and then have a quick rinse with your water.
Yep. The budget products though, when you and nothing against the Kmart tubs or whatever they are, but they're more prone to, like, the front runner boxes that we've got in the back of ours.
They're going to last for eons.
Last forever. Yeah. You pay a bit more for them, but you obviously pay for the quality. So what can we expect from budget products? I mean, I think it goes back to how often you're using them. If you're not using them very often and you're going away for a night or two here and there, I think the budget options, there's no point spending the money on the really quality.
No, there isn't, but there are certain aspects to it. So, for example, like a camp oven, your cast iron camp oven.
Yep.
You can buy I guess a $150, $200 one. You can also buy a $20 one. They're both going to do the same job.
Yep.
At the end of the day, it comes down to the person using it, finessing the food. Doing all that magic with cooking a food properly. You're going to get just as good a meal out of that as you will the other. That's a good way to save money. There's also, like the gas cookers again, I know we already touched on that, but there's also those little fire pits you fold out and you put over a fire.
Yep.
You can get some of those that are like hundreds of dollars, or you can get one from your local BCF for like $30, And I've still got one of those from there. It's one of my favorite things to use. I can put billy cans on it. I can put anything on it. And there's nothing better than a rusty old billy can. As long as it's not rusty on the inside. If it's rusty on the outside and it's got char marks, that there sings adventure, it sings memories, rather than some fancy $100 $1 pot or something that you're cooking something in.
That Billy's got a story to tell rather than...
Exactly.
Yeah. I suppose the tips that we've been covering here are great, but talk to me about shopping sales, because the amount of options there are now too, and we're not talking about mods on, stuff that's bolted onto your car, the big things that we see on the outside.
That's a whole other episode, I reckon.
We will get into that. The shopping sales, like you mentioned Kings, the affordability of their stuff and the amount of sales they have and the amount of advertising they have for getting their stuff out there.
Yeah.
You've obviously got your ARB, TJM, for all these different bits and pieces. They've all got their own version of these bits that we've been talking about. But how do you go about finding the best sales in, and I suppose who do you trust with this stuff as well? Because like I say, you can buy budget, but you might be replacing them 3 or 4 times, or each year you might need a new one because they've cracked or whatever it is. So
generally speaking, if you buy something from like a brand, like, my opinion here, just in case we get in trouble for this, but in my opinion, if you buy something from Kings, you can't expect it to last that long. You're paying a very little amount of money. It's mass produced. It's cheap material. And look, it has its place in the industry because people need to get out there, right? Not everyone can afford to go to, say, ARB and buy the same thing. However, at ARB, you can expect that item to last. And if something happens, well, you'll have a warranty on it, they'll replace it. But the same thing happens over here with Kings as well, or like your Super Centre or whatever they're called, or any other budget, because there's other budgets as well. There's Wild Track, there's all kinds of things. So if any of those items generally break, they generally just replace them, right? Whereas more your expensive gear, well, either replace or they will fix, because it creates less waste, I would say, if you buy the good gear over the cheap gear. When we're out in the bush and we see gear discarded, it's generally speaking, it's the cheap stuff. It's a chair that's blown out. People are like, who gives a shit? I'll just buy another one. It does bring that mentality in. I mean, there's bad things to everything, but it does need to be spoken about. Like, we'll find busted out awnings. They're generally the cheaper stuff. And the thing is, I've seen expensive awnings blow over the car and we're able to pull them back. Whereas a cheap awning, it goes over, it's gone. See you later.
Yeah. So there's obviously, it speaks for itself, doesn't it? When you're paying for the quality of good gear and
exactly. But it also comes down to what it is, because if you buy a camp oven, again, you can just buy that from the cheap guys. You don't need like a real.
It's probably do your research on that, because I think a lot of things when you are forward driving on a budget, and we've spoke about this, and this will tie it off nicely, is fuel you're going to have to pay for. If you don't want to spend too much on it, don't go too far.
Or bring cherries.
Pre-filled. From a city petrol station. Obviously, you need food, you need water, so you can't go halves on that.
No.
And then I think the other options that we've covered is cheap camp setup. If a swag or a tent's fine, don't go and buy the rooftop tent or a fancy trailer.
Yeah, especially if you haven't even tried it before, because often people upgrade because they see it, and then they're like, you know what, I actually prefer a swag.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then I think you're going to need something to sit around at camp. There are some chairs out there that will break the bank on you, and I don't know how. You certainly do not need them.
It's crazy, isn't it?
You don't need them.
There are some chairs that are ridiculous.
And if you really don't want to pay any money for a chair, sit on your tailgate or something. Just don't sit on the fire. The one thing that we need, so I think that's basically what you need. You need food, water, you need something to sit on, you need something to sleep in, and you're going to have to pay for your fuel to get there. The other thing that I want to touch on is if you are into your forward driving, the basic recovery gear, which we have touched on quite a bit in this podcast, but give us the 2 things that you're going to need if you want to actually get down on the beach or get into some muddy ruts.
Okay, so with recovery gear, look, there are some things that you need to spend money on. And I'll say recovery gear is one of those. We've done a video where we tested all different recovery boards, and there were 2 standouts. One, obviously, way more than all the others, and that was the Max Tracks. Second place was
Which
Treads.
Are expensive.
They are expensive, but Treads is also expensive, and they weren't as good as Max Tracks, but they were pretty good. Mind you, this was a very hot day. Had it been a 20-degree heat day, I reckon all of these would have snapped. Everything below that, your X balls and all those other things, they were snapping.
Yep.
They were just crunching and snapping. Sure, it'll get you out once, but that's it. Then you got to buy again. So again, if you buy a recovery board that is $100, well, you're probably going to have to replace that. Whereas if you bought like a Maxtrax, it's like $280. It's a lot of money.
For a set of two.
For a set of, for just a pair. For two.
Sorry.
But it will last you a lifetime.
Yep.
I would say a lifetime. I've got my first well, actually, I don't have my first Maxtrax anymore because they got stolen off the roof. But I have my second pair that I ever bought, the silver pair, and they still look immaculate.
Yep.
I mean, there's a few little marks on it, but that'll last for good. So when it comes to recovery gear, don't worry about your snatch straps and all that stuff. Just go Maxtrax first, or like, good recovery boards.
Yep.
And from there, you got to know how to use a snatch strap before you would actually go and buy one.
I was going to go along the same lines and have at least a decent hitch to whack on the back. You might need recovery points at the front if they can get a little bit expensive, and you mightn't actually have the space for them if you don't have a bull bar on or anything like that.
That's true too.
Definitely be able to at least have one, I suppose, hook point for a snatch strap or a winch.
Yeah, that's it. Because I mean, most of the time, I guess, if you're going forward and you don't make it, well, you generally
come out the way,
go back.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. I think the recovery point should definitely be up there at the same level with like some recovery tracks.
Yep,
for sure. I just want to double back on that chair because I got a funny story about that. So you know how like those chairs that can break your bank, right?
Yeah.
Well, you know those real light chairs? I think they're called Helinox.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I used to have 3 of them. Now I've got 2, and I got rid of the other 2. Yeah. So what happened was we were at the backs of the cliff, and my daughters were sitting in the chairs, and it was windy, and because the reason why these things are so expensive is because they pack down tight.
Yep.
They take up no space. They are super light. You'd never overload your car with these things. So, I told the kids, stay in your chairs. It's a bit windy. I turn around, walk 2 steps, and then I hear this, oh no, my chair. It blew into the fire. And then it was in the fire for like 1 second, and it melted all that thin material.
Right.
Had it been a Bunnings chair, I reckon I would have been able to save it. And that's $6.
100%. 100%. The Bunnings stuff, Actually, you probably could get away with setting up your camp, or like your camp setup from Bunnings. You could probably...
Yeah.
Bunnings is pretty good, actually, for a lot of that stuff.
They've got a fair bit of stuff, actually.
Yeah.
But you just remind me of a video I did quite a while ago. I did a camping video on just stuff that you need. And it was like with the cheap tent, the cheap table, and all that stuff as well.
Yep.
And I stayed in it. That night. Here's the funny thing, right? So I did a thing with BCF. They allowed me to go in and grab all this stuff. And the whole thing behind it was I wanted to make this video to show people on a budget. So I got everything that I would have got. And then I gave all that to my sister because she wanted to go camping. So I kind of tied all that in. So she got all this gear. Funny thing was, when I stayed in the tent, I changed my undies in the morning, right? And she went and got it. She had a friend from Germany over. They went out camping. And when I opened my tent up, my undies were in there.
Were they only a day old, I hope?
Only a day old. But still, like finding your brother's undies.
Welcome to Australia.
In a tent. Yeah.
So Jaden has summarised for us it's almost like a poem, this. Something to sleep on, something to sit on, food and fuel, boxes to store stuff, esky or fridge. He wants tyre deflators in the budget essentials.
Oh, you can use a stick.
Yeah, he can use a stick, Jaden.
I think just something to deflate your tyres. If it's a stick,
Okay.
it's a stick.
True, that
I just
so
think
stick comes under your tyre deflators.
A tyre gauge and a stick.
Tyre gauge. Just like, I mean, if you're going beach driving.
Yeah, we
if
probably
you're
should have
going
probably
full
said
driving,
that, shouldn't we? That's why he's here, Jaden.
That's kind of like, I feel like that's something that you want, unless you want some pop tyres.
That's good by you. That's picked because
You'll be surprised though. A lot of people will just use a stick.
Yeah, no, I mean, feel free to use a stick if that's your budget.
His next point though of inflators, something to pump your tyres up, is because
deflate.
I want to hear that. I want to hear that one.
Budget option.
Yeah. What's your budget option for inflating your tyres?
Just blow into it, mate. Just use the lungs and use the air in your lungs.
Hey, Kings.
Repco do some stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know how expensive or cheap that is.
The King's dual compressor was pretty affordable, and I've got that, and it's still going.
Yeah.
So that.
Yeah,
that
I think
is-
you're one of the lucky ones though.
Yeah, I probably am.
Yeah. I know one bloke who's taken it back 3 times.
Yeah. Okay.
And eventually, they kept giving him another one. Eventually, he's like, "No, I'm just going to go buy an ARB one."
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
I'll let you
it's
know.
got
I'll
its
let you know
place.
how I go with that.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll see how we go.
So I bought a super cheap auto one for $50, and it works as long as you don't have 33s or 35s. You have 35-inch tires, you're going to be there all freaking day. You end up using your mate's compressor, or the hose ends up getting too hot and it blows off. You know, those little $50 ones.
Yeah, I reckon I'm getting a flashback. I think I've had one of those before, and I don't have that anymore.
I mean, if you want to go super budget, you can get a foot pump.
Oh, gee whiz.
Get a workout
We're
too.
getting a little bit. We're going a bit.
Yeah, chest workout there.
We're getting away from the
very
important stuff here. I think. This is the 4 Drive podcast driven by Shelter.
Ooh, just in time, the fire pit. Around the fire.
Cold day out there.
It is a very cold day, but not a bad day for a cold shelter though. So have we missed any budget ideas? I mean,
I'm sure we have.
there's got to be people out there that have some really cool ideas. So send them in, guys. What have we missed, and what do you do that is like just an ingenious idea, or you have a mate that has just this wicked idea?
Yeah, we'd love to hear it, and thank you as well. We've got a few episodes out now, Ronnie. We're getting some good buy-in from our listeners and our viewers. So
lots of feedback.
We appreciate that. We're enjoying what we're doing. Hopefully, you guys are too. But we know what around the fire pit means. I shut the laptop. Jaden, not the 4 Drive God. He doesn't like that. But what is it? The voice from above, or the
I feel like we've gone through a few names, haven't we?
Yeah.
It is Jaden. So you just take over, mate, from here.
The voice on the side of the road at Whiteman Park.
Yeah.
Bogged, waiting for a mate.
Story for another day.
I don't know if that was me.
That was you, mate.
We're going to have to bring that story in one day.
One day we'll talk about
Put
it.
him in the chair here and just dim the lights and just so you can admit to it.
We'll be real dramatic with it.
Yeah.
I had to put a glow behind him.
One thing I think you boys missed, a torch.
Yeah.
Just from
That's
my
good call.
side, I think a torch is a pretty good kind of essential almost.
It is definitely essential, but I feel that I've gone through so many torches, and this is where I would draw the line with a budget. Like, get a nice torch. A torch to me is like a knife. You get yourself a nice knife. Wherever that knife is, like a $50 or $150, you get that nice knife. It's going to last you a lifetime. The same with a torch. Get something that's better, because if it's rechargeable, you don't have to worry about batteries. You just recharge it.
Yep.
You just plug it into your Siggy plug and USB and charge it.
I've just had something's come to my mind there. You know why he's carrying on about torches so hard? Because you never get to camp on time. So you're the only bloke here that needs a decent torch. We're all set up, mate, ready to go, waiting for you.
We're there in daylight.
Yeah.
Hey, at least the fire's going when I get there. Like right now.
But yeah, good point. That's probably something that we miss, a decent torch. And
Now
That was a
you've
good
got
one.
torches on your phone, so
yeah, true.
Oh, mate.
can you get away with a
No.
phone torch?
No, you try and walk in the bush in the middle of the night with your toilet paper and a shovel and a phone. It's not enough.
I mean, it must be nice, Ronnie. Must be nice to have the money to spend on a torch. I'm over here with a phone torch.
It's one torch. You get a head torch even.
Must be very nice. So, yeah, just anything we miss, send them into our socials. You know where they are. 4 Drive Podcast on Instagram, BackChat Studios on YouTube. We do read through the comments, so put them out there.
I have a budget idea for the torch here, by the way.
Go.
So spend the money on a good head torch, have a milk bottle, wrap it around so it's lighting into the milk bottle, and now you have a lantern as well. So you got a lantern and a head torch.
That's budget.
That's actually good.
Yeah, that's budget.
That's actually, yeah.
Thanks for joining us, mate.
You've come back in. He's come back down to the common man level.
Yeah. He read the room there and well done.
No, that's actually a really good idea. So
that
we
fire's
do
still
have a
going.
couple of questions. The fire's still going. We'll fire them in. This one's from Matthew Gilbert. Sorry, Duggo. This one's for Ronnie.
Go for it.
Ronnie, what are your thoughts on the off-road map apps? I have an Android head unit and can't decide on getting the HEMA app or a standalone unit like I previously had. The head unit has built-in GPS to operate offline.
Okay, if you have the head unit already, and since we are talking about budget, get the app for the head unit. because you can buy the tablet. Yes, you can take it out of the car and stuff, but you're paying a lot of money for that. They're like retailing for around $700 to above $1,000. So getting the HEMA app onto the actual head unit is the best way to go. Or if you have an iPad, everyone's got an iPad, steal your kid's iPad, just put that in it, and then when you get home, your kid can have the iPad back. And when you're traveling full driving, you shouldn't have your kids on iPads anyway. That's what I tell my kids.
I like that.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. So what if we take our budget? If we take our budget and you're looking at you just want to get a really good map, an off-road map.
Yeah.
What would you guys go to?
I currently have a Garmin. I've got 2 Garmins. The reason why I have 2, I bought them both as well. So they're $960. The problem was my cameraman bought one, and then he got in trouble with his wife because they were on a bit of a budget at the time. You know, it was around the COVID time. So I offered him to buy it off him to put in my Hilux, because at that stage I had the 79 and a Hilux. So that's why I have both of those. They're really good. They don't crash. They're quite stable. They use the HEMA map on them as well. But when you zoom right in, you get like a topographic map. I find that quite easy to use, but you're talking like $960. You know.
Right. Yeah.
And then there's better ones that go up from there.
Yeah, I'm just on my phone. I've got the books and on my phone, so because I haven't done big long trips, where I've needed them off. Like
the phone's fine too.
Yeah.
I
wouldn't mind looking into it. Can I have one of your Garmins?
I don't have a third one.
Good deal.
You can borrow one, see what it's like.
No, actually, I wouldn't mind having a look into those. Do you have one?
No, I've just been going off Google Maps and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
like look at the tracks before leaving and download the area that I need to go for.
It's
definitely
a good way.
It's a preparation thing for me. It's like looking at the maps offline, looking at the tracks, finding out if they're if you can take them or not, like if they're closed, if they're open, and then planning it through there. So that way, when you're on the trip, I don't really need a map like another. Like an online currently updated map or anything like as long as I follow that kind of thing.
I guess that's where that Starlink's coming in, you know, like eventually the whole world is going to be covered in cellular connection. So I reckon there'll be, at some point, you wouldn't even need any of these devices because you could just use it off your phone.
Yeah, right.
You could just go to
service.
I reckon, it's like one of those things, you know, like CD shops used to be around and now they're not.
They got wiped out quick, didn't they?
Yeah, didn't take long.
Yeah, they're gone, hey. This question in from the familiar name on the podcast here, the Lecker Trekker.
The Lecker Trekker.
The Lecker Trekker. Sent in a few questions he has, but what are some solo recovery methods, non-winch recovery methods? We've kind of gone on this a bit in some other episodes, but
digging,
if we're focusing on a budget,
high lift jack, you can winch with a high lift jack. And like repairing things with a high lift jack, that's theoretically that's recovery as well. It's hard work, it's difficult, it's dangerous, but you can recover with a high lift jack. It's going to take a long time. You know, you need chains. So say there's a tree in front of you that's maybe hopefully within 3 meters, you can use a chain to your car, strap to the car, strap to the tree, or you know, chain to the strap, and then you just manually labor. You only move the length of the high lift jack itself, and then you got to reset.
Wow.
So, you know, if you're in a situation where that's all you got, you know, you have a way out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can do with farm jack.
Bloody hell.
You know, like there'll be some people that just swear by these tools, and you know they're awesome. But
how did you learn that? How did you know about that?
I've seen it.
Yeah,
I've seen it in videos, and farmers, they use it to pry things apart. And we've actually straightened things out with farm jack before, or kangaroo jack, or high lift jack.
Yeah.
And what else have we done? Like, you know, just generally just lifting the car really, but we have straightened things out.
Wow.
I've even straightened my tray out at home in my old driveway. I cracked a render on the wall. I put it up against the wall and then straightened my tray out because I did some damage at Mundaring power lines.
Oh, yeah.
And I managed to do that, but then as soon as I removed it, even the wood didn't protect the wall; it just crumbled.
Be careful if you're on a budget and you need to build a new home. Just start up doing that.
Yeah, we didn't fix that until we sold the house. It was like 10 years later.
That is an incredible method. I didn't know that was even an option.
Yeah. And there's heaps of other ways too. Like just using branches and digging and
Yep.
But if you don't have a high lift jack, well then you're kind of screwed. But they're a very dangerous device.
They're
heavy.
I've used one not long ago and watched like 3 videos beforehand just to make sure I was all over the correct technique.
Yeah.
Because it was with a lot of that, like just seeing that thing whack, I'm like, oh, that is scary.
It's the release, I know a lady that's knocked all of her teeth out and knocked herself out with it.
Really?
Yeah. Had her head over the thing and it slipped and knocked her out.
Scary stuff.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah. Cool. Well, that's all the questions I've gotten here today. Yeah.
All right, they were good questions. Nice. Yeah, I like those questions.
Bit to learn, actually.
Yeah.
For us as well, which is good.
I should do a tutorial on the high lift thing.
Yeah, keep your eyes out for Ronnie's YouTube channel when he releases the high lift jack video, because that'll actually be. I did not know that you could.
Yeah, that'd be cool to see in action. Actually,
that's a cool little trick.
I released a couple of safety videos with him, showing what happens if
I may have gone over that one actually. Yeah, thanks for that, mate.
The one with the apple and the orange got squashed. That one?
Oh, maybe. It was an early one from your channell.
Yeah.
I had to go back a fair way.
Yeah, actually, I did another one. After that. Yeah.
Oh, righto. Yeah, I don't think I saw that. Maybe I was like, I know what to do now, and I just jumped straight into it. I didn't see the apple and orange part.
Yeah. Well, no, that's a good idea. Do some YouTube videos before you do something stupid and dangerous. Make sure you know what you're doing.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely with recoveries and high tension and pressure and stuff.
Yep.
For sure.
Not worth losing all your teeth.
Yeah, or worse things. Yeah.
Done? Happy?
Oh, I'm happy. Yeah.
You happy, Jaden? I'm happy, mate. No worries. Well, that's touring on a budget. Obviously, hit us up at the 4 Wheel Drive Podcast on Instagram. That's where you find us on the socials, and all our episodes over at BackChat YouTube. Again, thanks, guys. Appreciate all the support.
Thanks, guys. Time for a shelter.